my heart has literally been broken in the most beautiful way ever. I love this movie so much. I just finished watching Call Me By Your Name for the third time, and I am literally crying still. I didn't think it would affect me this much. I was like, okay, I'll watch the film and then I'll make the video because I just need to talk about this. But, like, I cried just as much as the first time, if not even more, because I knew what was gonna happen. So I'm gonna collect myself, and then I'm gonna actually make this video. Alright, I have composed myself and reapplied some mascara because I was crying, and it's a little clumpy because I was crying, but it's okay because we're just here to talk about the film. And I just want to tell you why I freaking love the heck out of this film. It's so beautiful. But before I do that, I just want to say, if you have seen the film and you didn't like it, that's okay, that's alright. I totally respect your opinion, we all have our own things, but I hope that you can respect my opinion as well, and I'm just gonna leave it at that for that. If you haven't seen the film and you're hoping to watch it, don't watch this video because there will definitely be spoilers. I can't really talk about my love for it without giving things that happen away. So yeah, let's go ahead and start talking about it. Oh my god, I love it so much. I've been in this little Call Me By Your Name trance since I first watched the film Friday night, like the weekend of the Oscars. I know I'm super late to watching it, but better late than never. And oh my god, it was the best decision I've made in such a long time. It was so good. And ever since, like, I literally will wake up and just think about it and go to bed and think about it. And I bought the movie now and I have it and I will constantly watch scenes from it, and I've seen way too many interviews and listen to podcasts on the drive on the way to the school and on the way back from school because I am just so obsessed with it. I haven't been this obsessed with something since like La La Land came out, which is a whole different story, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I just want to talk about first the cinematography. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! The director only used one lens for the whole freaking film, a 35mm lens, and I just found it to be so consistent and nice the way that he did that. I don't know, and the graininess, and it was just so perfect. Every single shot just matched up perfectly, and I loved it so much. And then the colors. Oh, shout out to the DP. I don't know his name right off the top of my head, but holy fuck. The colors at the beginning of the film are like these like warm yellow, green, like light blue hues. I don't know how to really describe it. I'll put pictures here so you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about because you watched the film. But anyway, I love the use of like colors and the aesthetic. It was just so lovely. Also about the whole aesthetic aspect of this thing, the scenery. I think they went to a little village called Crema, which is where the actual director Luca lives, and the scenery is so pretty, so beautiful. It really transports you to Italy. And then I love how towards the end of the movie when Elio is on the phone, they use colder tones kind of thing to set the mood, I guess. So it was like more towards the blue and just colder tones to depict just the like sadness of the film. I don't know, it just really came across to me and it communicated it so well. And I think that's about it that I'm going to talk about for cinematography. I'm going to move on to music. Sufjan Stevens, oh my lord, you have done it. Obviously you've done it because you were nominated for an Oscar for The Mystery of Love, which was just a lovely song that just told a narrative so well. I loved it. I went and downloaded it right after, and Visions of Gideon, which plays at the end when the credit sequence happening and Elio is just crying by the fireplace, breaking my heart again. Let me just see if I can play it. Oh my lord. I can literally feel myself starting to cry again because I just... The lyrics are so gorgeous and the tone of the song is just so reminiscent of everything that just led up to that moment. The song says, "I have loved you for the last time," and the first time I heard that line, it just broke me because you don't really know at the end of the film what's gonna happen. Like, Oliver's off to get married and Elio is just trying to process this whole love story that happened, and his heart is breaking, and is it the last time that he's gonna love him? And probably is, I don't know. And then The Mystery of Love, duh, The Mystery of Love is so good. Obviously, because the Oscar nomination and everything. The lyrics, if you go and look up the lyrics, they're so telling of Elios and Oliver's story, and oh my god, Sufjan Stevens. Like, fuck, yes, blessed be the mystery of love. Oh, so gorgeous. And then his Oscar performance was just so beautiful as well. When Sufjan went up on stage to play the mystery of love, and you see Timothy and Armie, and they're both looking so happy, I was also like, oh my god, yes! And then when he finished, I was like, yes! Like, shook. What a performance! And the whole soundtrack. Like this. It's just so perfect for that Italian setting. I don't know what it is, it just matches up perfectly, and it's like telling the story of the little town to me. That basically concludes all there is for music. Sufjan Stevens, massive freaking shout out, even though you're obviously never gonna watch this, but a girl can hope. Moving on to the acting, wow, this cast was just a match made in heaven. They fit so perfectly together, and they all gave such honest and truthful and just instinctual performances to the point where they just became their characters and were just doing what their character would do based on instinct. At least that's what it felt like to me. Like, Armie Hammer just became Oliver and Timothée Chalamet just became Elio. Let me just talk about these two people because they are such good actors. Timothée Chalamet's performance was so emotionally raw and vulnerable that he really had to put himself out there, like wear his heart on his sleeve, and that is not an easy thing to do, especially I would guess, or I mean in my own perspective and things and characters that I've had to play, it's not an easy thing to do in front of other people, much like a crew of what, 30, 50 people? I don't know how many people there were in the crew. Yeah, like he really had to be emotionally vulnerable and available to take direction and be malleable and just be Elio. I first saw Timothy's performance in Lady Bird, which was really good. He played the perfect douchebag in the most authentic way, if that makes sense. But this was just on another level for me, obviously because the character was very different and it touched me in ways that Kyle in Lady Bird would have never been able to do. But I feel like he was just so committed to the character. Everything that he did felt so instinctual. His performance as Elliot just, God, broke my heart in that last scene. I cried through that whole end credit sequence. Honestly, from like the phone call I was crying, and I kept on crying because it was so authentic. It was so raw, and it really touched you in a way that you could see yourself being in the same position, and he kind of related to you so well on that level. On the other hand, there's Armie Hammer, who plays Oliver, and man, his performance was so beautifully controlled. Obviously, Oliver has to have like a wall up, as we find out towards the end of the movie, that his parents would have never approved of anything that he was doing. I feel like he has this sense of like some slight guilt or something. I don't know how to explain it, but he's clearly more of like a walled character, and Armie Hammer does so perfectly in captivating that. And his facial expressions just almost say it all. Like, there's so many parts in the movie where there's zero dialogue, and going back to Timothy and Armie put together in the goodbye scene, which just touched my heart in so many ways. There was no dialogue between them, no like goodbye, I love you, or anything. There was nothing there besides them just looking into each other's eyes and communicating what each other felt through just looking at each other. And Armie and Timothy did so well in so many parts of the movie, but that particularly stands out to me as a point where just their facial expressions and their feelings and everything was just captivated without dialogue. And I think that is really beautiful, and I commend them for that. It is not easy, and they just did it so, it almost seems so effortless. Another thing is the intimacy, and I'm not talking about the fact that Armie and Timothy had to kiss and they were straight men. That literally, no, that is not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the level of intimacy that there had to be between Oliver and Elia for this whole thing to work, and the chemistry and the let go that that Armie and Timothy must have had with each other, to just let go and trust each other and be confident and feel comfortable. I don't know if you know this, but Timothy actually was in Italy for like a month and a half or something before Army came up, and then once they met, they had some time to, like, you know, talk it over and stuff. But I find it absolutely insane that there was no chemistry test, no camera test for this. It was just like, okay, you guys are gonna meet each other and this is gonna work somehow, and it did. Like, how meant to be is that? I know that's super cheesy, but I just feel like it was just meant to be. That's it. I also want to mention the acting from Michael and Amira, who play Elio's parents, and then Esther, I forgot her last name. I didn't say the last name for the other two. I'll just insert it here. They also had such great performances. Esther, who plays Marcia, there's a couple of scenes that really stuck out to me. I'm just going to talk about them really quickly because I want to dedicate more time to some of my other favorite scenes. But basically, when she is asking Elio, am I your girl? You can see there's like subtext there, and there's like a little bit of a heartache. And then when she goes up to Elio, when he's sitting in the car, and she's asking, hey, like, can we still be friends, or whatever the line is, I forget right now. But you could also see there was like subtext going on in the back of her mind as an actor, but not like, oh, am I doing it right subtext, but like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to Elio. Like, she was really in it, and she was really committed, and I applaud that. As for Amira's and Michael's performances, I think I'm going to talk about them a little bit later once I get into some of my favorite scenes. I honestly don't think this film would have been the same if anyone else had been casted in those roles. It was also just so captivating to see them interact with one another. It felt like the chemistry was really there, and there was this sense of comfortableness on set, which just played out really nicely on screen. And yes, I think that is all I'm gonna say for this. I have to talk about the screenplay because holy heck, it won an Oscar. James Ivory won the Oscar for the Best Adapted Screenplay, and it made my heart so happy. When he went up to get his Oscar, he was wearing a shirt with Elio's face on it. How iconic is that? Like, so perfect. When I heard the announcement, I was shooketh, and the Oscar goes to Call Me By Your Name. Just gotta say, the fact that this got like 4 Oscar nominations, I think that's the right number. If it's not, I will edit it. But the fact that it got so much public eye recognition is just, yes, amazing. Like, I'm shook. This is great. I think that says more about the screenplay than I will ever be able to put into words right now, that it won an Oscar. It was so well deserved. I am so happy. Let's move on to something else. Now I have to talk about some of my favorite scenes, which is arguably honestly the whole freaking movie because I loved every second of it, but obviously there were some highlights, and I actually bought the movie. I purchased it on iTunes. Oh my goodness. The best purchase I have ever made. Like, really great $20 spent. And girl, I know that you can probably find links to watch this and watch your favorite scenes on YouTube, but man, I wanted to support them, so I spent my $20 supporting this beautiful piece of art. The scene where they're in the plaza. Ah! Oh my gosh! It's the first thing in memorable moments. Ah, yes.
Why are you telling me this?
Because I thought you should know. Because you thought I should know.
Because I wanted you to know.
Because I wanted you to know. Oh. For this plaza scene where Elio finally kind of confirms his love for Oliver, wow, the director had this choice. I don't know if this was intentional, but this is kind of like the way that I interpret it. There's distance between Oliver and Elio because there's that plaza centerpiece thing. And then they start coming around to each other, and that distance is kind of closed. And I just found that so beautiful. Like, they started off obviously distant from each other, and then once Elio tells him this, it's like it brings them together. Another scene that I really loved, obviously it's the one where it includes the title of the movie, and it is the one where Oliver says, call me by your name and I'll call you by mine. And it is right after they've had sex, and it is so powerful. It almost is more of a powerful sentence than if he'd said, I'm in love with you, or I love you. Because it communicates that there's this, the boundaries between who Elio and Oliver are have been kind of blurred, and they've just kind of become one. It's just Elio and Elio, Oliver and Oliver, Elio and Oliver. I don't really know how to explain it and how to articulate things properly, but I'm just gonna find a link and put it in the description down below if you're interested in the title of the name and why I love it so much, because I can't put it into words. But I just wanted to mention how much I love that line, and how powerful I think it is. Also, just to speak about the sex scene that happened right before that line was spoken, I know that a lot of people were mad about the fact that the actual sex scene wasn't shown, and there's not a lot of representation or showings of that in film. And I just want to say to that point, I feel like if we'd seen the sex scene between Oliver and Elio, it wouldn't have been as intimate. And Luca, who is the director of the film, actually explained it in a podcast or some interview, something that I was listening to recently, and it made a lot of sense to me, is that it would have been an intrusion on their intimacy if they'd shown the whole sex scene. And personally, I found it more beautiful that they just kind of panned off and we heard the sounds of their lovemaking. It felt better that way. I felt like I would have been intruding and disrupting their privacy. I just kind of wanted to mention this because there's obviously some criticisms about the sex scene not being shown, but I also just want to say the director himself, he's gay, and he agrees with the fact that the camera should have panned off to have kept that moment private and intimate, which leads me to the whole sensuality and eroticism that there was throughout this whole film. And I almost found that the little touches, to me, were more special than if they'd shown a whole sex scene. Like, I think it's sometime right before the sex happens where they're just kind of sitting on the bed, and Elio moves his foot on Oliver's, and then Oliver asks, "Does this make you happy?" And it's just those little touches of just being in each other's presence and having contact. All of these little things that add up, to me, seemed a lot more perfect to show their intimacy than a sex scene with grunting and thrusting and whatever would have been, to me, in my opinion. Okay, let's move back to like my favorite scenes. I know I talked about the train scene briefly and how Armie and Timothy were really able to communicate things without dialogue. And then when Elio is just sitting on the bench trying to hold his tears back, like, man, I've been there. You touched me again. But the actor is... Timothy is just so good at letting go and being vulnerable in front of the camera. And God, the scene when he's calling his mom and his voice cracks. It's like, "Mom, can you come get me?" My heart just breaks and shatters and drops, and it really fucking hurts because I understand it, but then obviously I don't understand the full extent of it because I've never been in a situation of that high stakes. But then when he's in the car with his mom and his mom doesn't say anything and he just grabs his hair and you see that she just understands him and just wants to let him think and settle with this and try and process it. I could not make this video without talking about Mr. Perlman's monologue because it just freaking shattered me. The words of wisdom that he gives Elio are so eloquent, and the whole thing is just so fucking beautiful. This is when we realize that he's known all along about the relationship between them, which I think we all had like our own little intuitions on knowing that they kind of knew. But this is when it's really solidified, and there's a sentence in the monologue where he says something like, "In my place, most parents would hope the whole thing goes away and that their sons would land on their feet," or something along those lines. And here we see that his dad doesn't judge him at all for having this relationship, and fuck, his dad is so good. And then he says something like, "Right now you're feeling sorrow and pain. Don't kill it, and with it the joy that you felt." Ooh, everything he says is just lovely. Like, he's just such a good father, and the actor communicates this so perfectly, and you really see this like father-son relationship that is just, it's just love. That's all it is. It's just love. And I think that's really all I have to say about the monologue. Also about Mr. Perlman and the mom and their relationship with Elio. Not just the fact that they didn't pass judgment, but they encouraged him to embrace his sexuality. And especially when they say, oh, what if Elio went on the trip with Oliver, and then they have this whole thing on their own, and the parents encourage that, and the parents are just both so good. Actually, everyone in this movie is so good, and that is one of the first things that my parents said to me after they finished watching the movie. I can't remember if it was my mom or my dad, but one of them said to me, that movie was just filled with good people. And that really did resonate with me, because there is no antagonist in the movie. There is nothing external stopping the relationship between Elio and Oliver, really. There's no bad people in the movie attempting to break that apart or anything like that. They're able to just explore their love together. During that phone scene, you can see that the parents look at each other, like right before they hang up, to let Elio and Oliver talk to each other. And the look just communicates the sadness that they feel for their son, and you can really see how much they love him by way, again, of no dialogue, just non-verbal communication that we get across the screen. And again, the actors. From the phone call, we move on to him staring into the fireplace, where Elio is just kind of trying to process things, and he's, God, holding the tears back, and you can really feel it and see his like thought process of like what's going on and him remembering it. And I think that is a solid straight, I don't know, 4 minutes of a non-cut take. And then when he breaks the fourth wall and looks straight into the camera, the chills, the goosebumps, everything. You feel everything at once. And once again, like I said, the song that plays during the background of this is Visions of Gideon. And there's the whole I Have Loved You for the Last Time. Is it a video? And is it a video, like, is the memory just a video? What is it? Like, it's just in the past now. I loved you for the last time, and that's it. It just really hurts, and it really gets to you. And Timothée Chalamet, thank you for being so vulnerable. I just realized I've been talking about Call Me By Your Name for a solid hour and a half, so I don't know how I'm gonna edit that down into any kind of reasonable time frame. And I think sadly a lot of things are gonna have to be cut out, which sucks because I love talking about them. So I'm just gonna try and wrap this up. I just want to say, I know these people are never gonna see this, but if I could say something to them, to everyone that made this film possible, the director, the producer, the actors, the extras, the grips, everyone that made this thing possible, thank you. I am so grateful that I was able to see this, such a beautiful masterpiece, and it touched me in so many different ways. It was honest and raw and truthful and real. I loved it in every possible way, and I am, again, so grateful. It really inspired me to keep going with my own acting, which is absolutely priceless. To everyone that's watching this right now, if you are also as obsessed with Call Me By Your Name and need to let your feelings out like I did, even if it was just to a camera, leave comments down below and we can discuss it. I could talk about this film forever. I know this is not my usual kind of videos, but if you did like it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you in my next video.
You never said anything. That's wonderful news.